Greetings, everyone. Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, guys, so I'm going to read this declaration. It's a little old, but I feel it's pertinent to what is going on with Scientology. Declaration of Margery Wakefield, 23 June 1993. Testimony tells the story of her experiences in Scientology. Margery Wakefield. I, Margery Wakefield, having personal knowledge of the following, hereby declare. 1. I was a member of the Church of Scientology of California from October of 1968 until February of 1980. I joined the church in Los Angeles, California, where I was primarily based, although I also took courses and or worked at church organizations in St. Louis, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Georgia, and Miami, Florida. 2. While in Scientology, I progressed to the level of OT3, an advanced level, and was also audited on New Era Dianetics for OTs, which is now OT5. 3. During the summer and fall of 1979, I worked as a volunteer for the church's intelligence operation, then called the Guardian's Office. GO, and now called the Office of Special Affairs, or OSA. I performed volunteer work for the GO at the Cedars location in Los Angeles and at the Old Bank of Clearwater location in Clearwater, Florida. It is concerning some aspects of this volunteer work for the GO that this declaration is written. 4. In the fall of 1979, I was approached by a young woman from the GO, names, in Clearwater and given a special project involving Pinellas County Circuit Court Judge Harry Fogle. I was told that Judge Fogle was ruling on an important case involving Scientology, although I was not told any further details of the case, which would have been normal as GO operated on a need-to-know basis. My understanding was that this operation was being supervised by a GO agent named Milt Wolf. 5. My directions concerning Judge Fogle were as follows. I was sent with another Scientologist pianist, Mario Fenninger, to attend Judge Fogle's Sunday school class at the Seminole United Methodist Church in Seminole, Florida. Mario gave a short talk on Scientology for Judge Fogle's comparative religion class. My directions were to befriend Judge Fogle after the class and get him to give me a tour of the church while engaging him in conversation. I was to try to get him alone in a room with me. I wish I knew how old she was when this happened. 6. I was then instructed by GO personnel that I would be called into court where I would under oath make certain allegations concerning Judge Fogle, namely that he had made sexual advances toward me, and also that he had made certain disparaging comments to me about Scientology. This was to be used to disqualify the judge from a case before him dealing with Scientology. I was coached by several different GO personnel who pretended to be the cross-examining attorneys. Wouldn't it be great to know who all was in the Guardian's office at that time? Or OSA. Number 7, I was coached for my performance in court according to the Scientology policy called TRL for training routine lie, which I was already familiar with as I had been introduced to it on one of my Scientology courses. TRL teaches the Scientologist to lie with conviction under stressful circumstances. 8. I remember asking one of the GO staff members about the fact that they were teaching me to lie under oath, and I was quoted the Scientology policy called the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, which simply means that whatever must be done to ensure the survival of the third dynamic of Scientology must be done regardless of the side effects. In other words, Scientology law is considered to be above and outside the jurisdiction of non-Scientology, or WOG law. Scientologists do not honor the biblical oath, even though they may say that they do. This is TRL in practice. 9. As instructed, I did meet with Judge Fogle in his Sunday school class. After the class, I did engage him in conversation, got him to give me a tour of the church, and was at one point alone in a room with him. As it happened, I never was called into the courtroom to testify against Judge Fogle, and I assumed that the situation had been taken care of in another way. 10. I was also engaged in another project at the Cedars Building in Los Angeles, and this project had to do with the federal action involving the 11 Scientologists charged with burglarizing federal offices in Washington, D.C. 11. It was standard operating procedure in Scientology to assign private investigators to collect information on each judge and each lawyer and witness for the opposition in any important case. This information was then brought into the GO offices, where a workstation had been set up for each person being targeted for investigation. 12. All the information collected on one individual, for example, a judge, was then laid out in chronological order in what was called a time track. Bits and pieces of paper would be taped on a long sheet of paper. It was then the job of a writer to come in and write a narrative from this time track. And it was common knowledge that this narrative would be made available to the Scientology attorneys, and it would be used for blackmail purposes when possible. I can't help but think and wonder how often something like that's used in the CIA. 13. I was the writer assigned to complete a narrative on the U.S. Attorney's Office, attorney named Raymond Banoun, which I did do. I was told to highlight with a yellow highlighter any mentions in the narrative of sexual misconduct, use of illegal substances, and other crimes. Also shows their obsession with sexual things. 14. In another project in the same time frame, I was assigned the task of going through witness Michael Mesner's supposedly confidential pre-clear files, and similarly tabbing any incidences of sexual irregularities, drug use, or criminal conduct to be used against him. 15. I consider myself to have been an average Scientologist in the performance of these and other duties for the GO. In one case, I was included in a meeting where two MURDERS were planned by Scientology personnel, and I was at the time in agreement with everything I heard planned in the meeting. I always knew they'd been doing this. All these people denying, it's because they knew. 16. It is my opinion that I was brainwashed and under hypnosis by Scientology for 12 years. If I had been ordered to commit bluicide by the organization, I would have, without question. I think I might have taken a life if ordered. This was the strength of the mind control that I was under in Scientology. 17. Therefore, to perjure myself under oath, when so ordered by the organization, was not to me an unreasonable task, especially if I were led to believe that the security and or survival of the organization was at stake. 18. I believe that most any ordinary Scientologist who was trained in training routine lie would upon command lie in court and would lie also about having been so trained. To put it simply, nothing such a Scientology says in court can be believed or regarded to be true, as the Scientologist believes him or herself to be above or outside the jurisdiction of WOG law. Such a Scientologist will not honor the biblical oath because it has no meaning to him or her. 19. I believe my opinion can be substantiated by corroboration by other ex-Scientologists, particularly those who have had experience in working for the GO/OSA. I declare under penalty or perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true and correct, executed the 23rd day of June 1993 at Tampa, Florida. And I know if something happened with Michael Meisner. I have to go back and look. I think he wound up unaliving himself, but it didn't go well for him. So I've been knowing from day one they were culpable and guilty of the MURDER word. That's just at the beginning. So I got this from Scientologylies.com, and I will make sure to put the link in the description. Hopefully I find some more interesting stuff. Have a good day or a good night wherever you are. Peace.